What's going on, everybody? This your man Kenny Graham, man. Listen, it's been a long time coming, but I'm excited that y'all are here. I'm excited that we are releasing the very first episode, very first installment of our brand new podcast, Conversations with Kenny. Listen, I'm excited again, man, because again, it's been a long time coming, but it has been something that's been on my heart for a very long time, for some years now. But I am taking the step to operate in this thing and walk in it. And so that's one of the main reasons why we started this podcast, right? Because this is something that has been on my heart and some things that I've gathered over the years and just some information that I may want to share that has helped me that could be of help to you, right? But more so, I want this podcast to be a podcast where we have conversations together. And so listen, man, again, I am excited for you all. I'm excited for me. I'm excited for us to engage together. And that's just what we gonna do, right? That's the vibe I want to give to you, right? I hope that's the vibe that you're getting off of me. Like I want the vibe for us to be, conversational, for us to talk through this, for me to get to understand your life, and get to know the things that are going on in your life. And I'm gonna be transparent about the things that are going on in my life, right? So this podcast is meant for us to have conversations, right? And again, I'm just excited about what the future holds for this. So thank y'all so much. I really appreciate y'all support. I appreciate those who have already subscribed to the channel. And so if you haven't already, I encourage you to click the subscribe link below and get subscribed to the channel. We're going to be releasing podcast episodes every single week, man. So listen, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right to it, man, because, I'm excited. I know you're excited. And so we're going to go ahead right into it. And so I was just thinking, man, like, what is the word? Like, what is the, not necessarily the word of the day, but what is the first message that I can share as it relates to beginning this podcast? Like, what is it that I can say, man? And for a long time, I was just thinking, what is it I can say? And the thing that has been on my heart for a very long time, just two words: begin again. Begin again. And so for some of you, I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know who this is for, but just as it was for me, I'm going to encourage you to begin again, right? I want to encourage you to begin again in a certain aspect of your life. Like may have been a way that you have been operating and doing things that is not necessarily working for you no more. And so it's time for you to begin again. It's time for you to start on a new course and to start on a new adventure on whatever that thing is. But I want to encourage you to begin again. For some of you, it may be beginning again as it relates to, forgiving that person or talking with that person that you have a grudge or you have an alt against, but you want to begin again as it relates to y'all's relationship and start new, right? But for some of you, it's going to take for you to have that conversation, right? And honestly, for me, it took for me to have the conversation when me and my dad, when I was having alt against my dad, right? It took for me to make the phone call and actually talk to him about what was going on. And that process was not easy at all. Like there was so much that came with it, man. Like it was so hard for me, honestly. It was so hard for me when I was talking with my biological father during the time when I was having alt with him. It was hard because when I was on the phone with him, I also had this piece of paper that had what I was going to say to him. You right when I was on the call, and basically while I was talking to him, and he'll tell you, but basically when I was talking to him, I read basically off the paper how I felt and what I needed to say to him. Right, like that's how hard it was. That I couldn't even come from my heart. I couldn't even come from a place of of conviction. Like I want to just tell him from my heart. Like I couldn't even go there yet, but I had to write it down on a piece of paper and read it off to him because it was so difficult. Because there was so much grudge that was holding up against him. There was so much animosity. There was so much hurt. Like there was so much pain. Like there was so much that I had against this man that like I wasn't gonna be able to say anything to him over the phone just organically. Like I needed to write it down. I needed some structure to it because I understood that this was a process of forgiveness. This was a process for me getting to the other side. This was a process for me to begin again as relates to my relationship with my father. And now today, me and him, we cool. We like this. You understand what I'm saying? But it took for me to have the conversation, but there was times when I didn't, right? There were times when I didn't, and that went on for years where I didn't have the conversation for years. Like it went on for years, like, bro, like you in a whole nother state. You know what I'm saying? Like you got this, you know, my mom, but you ain't reaching out to me. Like those were things that were in my heart, right? For years. I'm telling you, for years. For years that hit my soul, for years that pricked my heart, until one day I said, Kenny, you know what, you got to deal with this. Like you have to have the conversation with your father, because your freedom ain't nobody gonna give it to you. Ain't nobody gonna give you what you want. You have to go out and get it. And for me, it was me being able to forgive my father. For me, it was me being able to talk with him and be able to share with him how I felt for the very first time. But that was hard. And I had to write on that paper. And I remember, like when I was reading off the paper, I remember the paper. Like I remember my hands just shaking, with the paper in my hands just shaking, because it was so hard, because it was so difficult. But now, years later, we on the other side of it. But it took for me to have that conversation. It took for me to understand that I wanted to begin again in this relationship. I didn't want to go through the same situation that I was going through as it relates to me and my father. I didn't want to have these animosities that I had in my heart. I didn't want to walk around, you know, telling people to do something and I'm not doing it myself. I didn't want to walk around with that in my heart. Because at the end of the day, man, outside of me just telling folks and not doing it on myself, it was killing me on the inside. It was killing me on the inside. But I had to have that conversation. And when I had that conversation, the freedom that just exuberated over me was so much powerful than the fear, and so much powerful than the pain, and so much powerful than the anger that was stirring in my heart, that was keeping me from talking to this dude. Until one day I did. But I had to think in my mind that I'm going to begin again with this. For some of you, it may be beginning again as it relates to your health. For some of you, it may be beginning again as it relates to, you know, your career, or relates to the place that you work. For some of you, it may be beginning again as relates to your friend group. For some of you, it may be for you to go into your friend group and evaluate who your friends are and evaluate if they're for you. Right? It may be for you to begin again in terms of, you know, I want a new perspective on life. I want a new perspective on how I'm seeing this thing called life. I want a new perspective, just period. Like I want newness, right? Because all part of beginning again is doing things new, right? And it doesn't mean that you do something, you know, and go into a different space, but you may have to operate in the space that you're in differently. So forget, listen, this right here, man, is the thing that's on my heart, because, you know, especially with everything that's going on in the world, and I would be remiss to not speak on the stuff that's going on in our society, with all of these rollbacks and stuff like that. And, you know, so much is just going on, right? But the one thing I would just encourage us to do with that is for us to just be vigilant, and for us to be prepared, right, for whatever it is to come with this, right? We don't know what that may be, but it's important for us to be vigilant and prepare for whatever it is to come, right? So I just wanted to just kind of note that as well. But beginning again takes something. Beginning again takes it takes a part of you. It takes for you to operate in another version of yourself, because for some of us, beginning again may be operate in a different version of yourself. Begin again may be you operating in a different version of yourself as it relates to, you know, how you see people, as it relates to how you communicate with people, as it relates to, you know, just how you approach this thing called life. Like you have to begin again. There's this song that's called, you know, It's a New Day, It's a New Beginning. I don't remember the name of the artist, but it's a gospel artist, right? But it talks about what was in your past is in your past. Like what happened in your past is in your past, and you can't control what happened in your past, but you can control what you do in your present, which will ultimately affect your future. And so I'm just today, honestly, and throughout the rest of my entire life, man, and what I've been doing throughout all year is focusing on the present, focusing on who I am, who I'm being in the present. Who do I need to be in the present? Like what is going on around me in the present? How can I be engaged with those who are present with me? Like how can I be engaged as a human? How can I be engaged in my work? How can I be engaged just as a person? How can I be engaged as it relates to me being a husband to my wife? How can I be engaged as it being a better son? Being a better uncle, whatever. Like I want to always be present because I know ultimately what I do in my present is going to affect my future. And so part of beginning again is living in the present, embracing the present, and not focusing on the past, because you can't change that. You can't. And there's somebody that is listening and you've been on the past so much, you can't do nothing about that. You can't do nothing about that. You can't change the past of what you've done. But what you can do is you can move on from it and make different decisions, right? And so I'm going to spend the rest of my life embracing the present and beginning again by embracing the present first, and then going about making the changes that I need to make. And so we have to go on this journey, man. And actually beginning again, man, it's an ongoing process. This is something that continues to happen throughout the rest of our lives. Like that's something that we have to continue to do. There's a continued reinvention of ourselves and reinventing of who we are, reinventing of how we do what we do. Right. And so that is beginning again. Right. I need for you to know that there is a future for you. There's a greater future for you. Jeremiah 29:11. It wasn't plain when he said, but I know all the thoughts, for I know the plans that I have for you. I know your plans. I know your future. I know the future that I have for you. I know the beginning, the new beginning that I have for you. I know what I have for you. And that is for you to experience hope in the future. That's to bring you to an expected end. That's to bring you to the place where you're living in your new beginning, when you're living in a new experience, where you're beginning again. Because we all need to, yo. We all need to. And it's going to take for us to go through that process of beginning again. And it's not going to be easy. I told you, it wasn't easy for me when I had to read that paper of telling my father how I felt about him when I got his number and I had to talk to him for the first time over the phone. That wasn't easy. Like it was not easy. And there were cuss words that I was saying on that. I'm just keeping it real, because that was what I needed in order for that release and in order for me to get into my begin again process, right? And you may need whatever it is that you need, but for some of us, the reason why we're not getting to where we're having to get to or wanting to get to is because we only take parts of the process and we neglect the other part. No, you need every bit of the process, the easy part, and you need the difficult part. Like you need the more smooth part, and you need the part where there are going to be some rumbles. Because it all works hand in hand. It's like my guy Sean says, man. It's like he says all the time. He said you got to fight and build at the same time. Like you have to fight, but you got to know how to build. And you ain't building if you don't know how to fight. And so you need both hand in hand to be able to work through this thing, man, and do the things that you're supposed to do. And I honestly believe for this particular episode, where we needed to start, where I felt in my heart where we needed to start, was to share that, to begin again. And I want to encourage somebody, like when you get to your alone time, when you get into your space where it's just you and you, and I need for you to go within yourself and really identify the areas of your life where you need to begin again. the areas of your life where there needs to be some transformation and rejuvenation for some of you. Like for some of you, you need to go into your closet and really understand, like, are these people serving me? Or is this situation serving me? And if it's not, let it go. Because the more you hold on to it, the more you are preventing yourself from getting the new. New wine cannot go in an old wine bottle. Are you feeling what I'm saying? Because it'll bust. So you need the new, but in order for you to get to new, you have to remove the old. And so listen, man, that honestly is what is on my heart for today, man. And again, I just pray that we take this and we run with it, and that we're not only changed by it, but that those who are around us and our immediate families and those that are loved ones are changed by it as well. And so listen, y'all, thank y'all so much just for taking this time to be with me on this first episode. It's one of our shorter episodes, but I just wanted to really just get on here and just share that. Right, that's something that's been on my heart for the first episode, but I'm overly excited just about releasing our brand new episode, our first episode in general, man. And so we're gonna keep going at it. But before we leave out of here, I want to encourage those, again, if you're watching for the first time, please click the subscribe link below and click there so that you can get subscribed and get notified when we release new videos every single week. We're gonna be releasing some other stuff too. We're gonna have some different segments within the podcast. We're gonna have some different folks come on as guests, and we'll be interviewing those guys and interviewing those people. And so it's just gonna be amazing with this journey, man. And I'm just excited that y'all are going on this journey with me. And so listen, guys, again, it's time for us to begin again in whatever area in our life we need to begin again. And so today is the day, and I encourage you that you're going to do it, and that you're going to be amazing at it, and that whatever you need on the other side of it, it's going to happen. I love y'all. Peace.